This is Val.
Alright, everybody ready?
Ready.
Alright, so first off, can you just say and spell your name?
Yes, I am the Chief of Police for the Riverside Community College District. My name is it's Christopher Cano, spelled C-H-R-I-S, T-O-P-H-E-R, last of Cano, C-A-N-O.
Can you give us a rundown of when this started, when you guys were here first?
So at approximately 8 o'clock this morning, we had received notification from some of our student body that there was a person in a parking lot walking around with a knife that, based upon the pictures that were sent to us, it looked like a folding knife. Really can't get the idea of how big the blade was, but he was walking around displaying this knife, and the students notified us. At this time, what we ended up doing was we started to search for him. We couldn't locate him at first. Then we subsequently did locate him hiding behind some buildings. The officers ordered him to stop, but they went into foot pursuit, and he essentially was able to utilize the basin here, and then he barricaded himself inside of the tunnel. That's where you folks have been taking your video from at that point.
Was he hiding behind some of the buildings on campus?
Yes, he was actually utilizing some of the buildings around the campus to stay hidden.
So the first time that you guys got word of it, you started looking for him, had you ordered a shelter in place at that point, or was everything?
No, there was no shelter in place at that point due to the fact that it appeared that he had left campus, but as soon as our officers located him again and were in foot pursuit, that's when we decided to go ahead and lock down the campus to keep all the students safe, due to the fact that he was armed with a knife and he ended up having brass knuckles as well. So we wanted to ensure that all students were sheltering in place, that they weren't arriving on campus and not knowing what's going on. So we utilized our what we call our rave guardian system, which sends a notification out to faculty and students, as well as if parents register, they get that notification. But that was when it was done, when he was on foot, not obeying the commands of the officers.
Was he, do we believe he was a student? Do we believe, was he just outside on the campus, or outside of the campus at first when he got someone?
Based on, and this could definitely change, based on our preliminary investigation, it appears that he is not a student on this campus, has no business to be on this campus, that he's actually a local homeless person that resides somewhere around the campus area.
And then at what point did he run into the tunnel?
As the officers were giving chase, he went into the, I'll call it the riverbed, but he was able to get into the riverbed and then got into the tunnel. And if you walk up to that tunnel, you can see immediately it gets black and you can't see anything. So that's when our officers slowed down, and then he was able to get deeper into the tunnel. But they had made contact with him and they knew that he was in this tunnel the whole entire time.
Was anybody threatened at all?
As far as I know, student body-wise or faculty, no. It's just a matter of he was walking through the parking lots displaying that knife, so who knows at what point in time what his intentions were.
Now, can you go through just the operations to get him out of there? Was he just barricaded inside?
So I use the word barricaded. It's probably not the best term to use. It just goes back to my SWAT background, but he would not come out. And based upon the situation, obviously we want to de-escalate these as peacefully as possible. So our officer slowed down. He was communicating with them. So we were utilizing a crisis negotiator. We were trying to talk to him. At one point in time, we also, our police department has a partnership with the county mental health. We have a social worker that is assigned to one of our police officers, so he was utilized as well. We're utilizing all of these tools just hopefully to get him to come out peacefully and give up to the officers, but he kept refusing. And that's the part that was taking so long, was that we knew time was on our side, so there was no reason to rush this, and there was no reason to push the issue. So that's why we gave him as much time as he needed, and we just kept talking to him, hoping that he would just eventually go ahead and comply with the officer's orders and give up.
What was his demeanor? Was he hostile? Did he seem like he had mental health issues?
I haven't had an opportunity to speak to the arresting officers. I just know he was uncooperative, but I don't know if he was threatening or what he was exactly saying. That all will probably come out later on in the investigation, as well as when the reports are done.
So did you use it sounded like you heard some flashbangs? Was that trying to get him to move?
So I should say, I wasn't told exactly what less lethal device was used, but that definitely was not a flashbang. There are no flashbangs that go off simultaneously in 4, so most likely that was probably a beanbag shotgun that was utilized, just based upon what the sound that I heard, but I have not read any reports or been told what less lethal was used yet, but I'm going to assume that it was a beanbag shotgun.
Was anybody injured in this at all, including him?
So what eventually ended up happening was he was allowed to go deeper, not allowed, he was able to get deeper into the tunnel. At one point in time, our officers were attempting to take him into custody, and he was able to get away from them. He went through the entire tunnel and went up a ladder and he escaped through a manhole cover. And it was, I forget the name of it, but he basically was detained behind a liquor store. And subsequently, our officers did have to deploy a taser. I don't know the circumstances behind that, but because of the taser deployment, he will be sent to get medical attention for the taser deployment, as well as to make sure that there's nothing else wrong with him before we take him to the county jail.
Good.
This is successful. You guys kept everybody safe and very prepared.
For me as the chief of police, I'm going to say that this was very successful. Number one, no officers are injured, and number two, it sounds like the suspect has a very minimal injury. So yes, this has been very successful. I'm proud of the officers on the scene. They showed nothing but restraint. You folks know that this has been going on since 8 o'clock, and they sat there in the tunnel in the darkness trying to negotiate with them coming out. So I am very proud of their restraint and the de-escalation that they were utilizing to try to peacefully resolve this incident.
So no threat to any students anymore. Has the shelter in place been lifted?
Yes, immediately once we were notified on the radio that the suspect was in custody, I immediately got with my staff to tell them, let's get this shelter lifted, so that way people can go back to business, as well as, more importantly, for everyone to feel or everyone know that they're safe. So we did that immediately.
We have a question. So, as far as the notifications, a lot of us students are frustrated, confused as to, they're frustrated as to not knowing what's going on. You know, we're ready to get the shelter in place, but not. I feel like we're left in the blue as to what's actually going on, and just the shelter is more moving forward. What do we do?
Well, given the fact that I'm the new chief here, and I saw some of the
conflicting reports of the stabbing and shooting,
and that's always going to happen in any
Yes,
situation.
sir.
There's always going to be conflicting information.
Yes, sir.
But we will attempt to try to get better information.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, sometimes it's such a evolving incident.
Exactly.
It's just so difficult, and plus too, the police department, they're really. Everybody was out here, as you folks can
Yes,
see.
sir. Yes, sir.
So it's really difficult for me to just call someone and say, I need this done, when my staff is actually out here.
I understand.
So that's the other difficult part. But we will definitely work on some type of better notification, because one of my first concerns is that I wanted everyone to know that there was not an active shooter, that this was more of a person walking around with a knife. It was just difficult at this point to do that, but we definitely will work on better notification in the future.
Yeah, I was saying, because I was in class too, and it was just, we're looking on social media, there's a shooting, and
Right.
and then it came out of this. So just clarification in there.
Yeah, we definitely will work on that.
The manhole cover,
Yes,
does that
sir.
come up in the middle of the street or like on a sidewalk? I mean,
So I don't know, but it was described to me as the middle of the street, which I have never in my 26 years have ever heard of that happening. But it's just I always tell people in law enforcement, when you wake up in the morning, you just don't know what's going to happen, and this just adds another story to my my box of stories that I have here in my head. So
I've seen those city workers struggling, two guys
Yes.
to get those up there, and this guy just climbed up and
Yeah.
pushed it out of the way.
and I believe those things are at least 50 pounds minimal. So yes, you are right. It usually takes two people to do that. So, but what it was described to me, it sounded like it was in the middle of the street, which I can only imagine what that looked like to the public that was around that area. Like, what is happening?
So just
Sorry, my last question really quick.
Yes.
For the, can you just say a comment about the robot that was sent in?
So the robot it's a great tool, because what it does, it allows us to get very close to the suspect, and the robot has a lot of features to it. Number one was we're utilizing the lights on the robot to light the subject up. So that's what it was mainly being used for. It allows us to get closer. It allows us to keep our law enforcement officers back, because they can utilize the screen to really see what's going on, to see if the suspect is armed, to see what they're doing, and it keeps us at that safe distance away, so we don't have to push the issue and get right up and close with the suspect. So it's a great tool, a great asset, and I want to thank the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department for allowing us to utilize that, as well as the Riverside City Police Department for coming out here and assisting our officers with a successful mission.
to reiterate, there is no threat to campus.
It's all good. We are all good.
Thank you.
You guys are welcome.
Just to be clear, the